Welcome to Pregame.com's continuing coverage of the Kentucky Derby. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, and I'm joined today by a very special guest, Dave Tuley from the Daily Racing Form and from the website viewfromvegas.com. Dave, welcome to the show, and tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about Dave Tuley.
Thanks, Marco. Yeah, I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, went to journalism school, Northern Illinois University. And I started out in just regular straight sports writing, but then in 1990 started going to Arlington Racetrack and fell in love with the sport.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, without a doubt. And adding the betting aspect, wasn't into sports betting at that time, so you really whet my appetite there. And then got a job with Daily Racing Form in 1993, and worked in Lexington and Phoenix, Arizona, offices there. But then the lure of Vegas got me. Moved to Las Vegas in 1998. Went to work for a Gaming Today newspaper here in town, was the managing editor. And then in 2000, Daily Racing Form hired me back full-time to cover the Las Vegas beat. So I mostly cover sports betting, but I still have that love of horse racing, especially around the big events.
Well, that's exactly the big events. That's a great segue, Dave, because we're going to talk about the Kentucky Derby and actually the 3 Triple Crowns in this segment. And we're going to be actually breaking down in other videos actual horses in the Kentucky Derby. But the Triple Crown, here in the Vegas scene, it's an event. Mm-hmm. I mean, this equals, not quite to the degree, obviously, of the Super Bowl, but there's parties around town. Mm-hmm. A lot of the casinos, they'll put rooms in their showrooms and that, in their ballrooms. They'll set up tables, and, you'll have all the big screen TV set up, portable betting windows, and people make an event and a party out of it. And to me, as a professional bettor, I bet for a living. I'm always looking for value. Mm-hmm. And to me, the Kentucky Derby, Preakness, Triple Crown race, the Belmont, it presents such an inflated wagering pool, and it's dead money because people are going to come, they're going to go to that party, they're going to drink, they're going to bet horses not based on reading the racing form. There's going to be people who are going to bet horses by name, horses by color, and just giving you so much more money in a pool. And you say, so what does that mean to the average bettor? Well, to me, and I'll get your take on it, you could have 2 favorites run first and second in the Kentucky Derby. On any given day at any track in the country, if you have the 2 stone-cold favorites run first and second, you're probably looking at a $10 exacta.
If you're lucky,
If
right?
you're lucky. But on Kentucky Derby Day, you could have the first and second favorites run, and you're looking at a $25, $30 exacta. That's how much value there is because of the dead money. So to me as a bettor, this is a great money-making opportunity.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, for years, the Super Bowl and the Derby were the 2 biggest events in Nevada. Obviously, March Madness is caught up now. But the Derby draws a big crowd. But, we're not only talking about just Vegas. We're talking about all over the country. There's people that only bet on these races. That they don't bet every day. So you're right. A lot of dead money in the pools. But even more than that, I think even the horse players that play every day, a lot of time they do get caught up in the hype horse or the wise guy's horse. And so you get those horses bet down, and other horses that are nearly as good drift up, and you definitely find the value there as well.
Oh, and I can tell you, and you say to the guys that bet every day, me as a guy that does bet every day, I can tell you that when I go into the Kentucky Derby, if normally my betting strategy is I might bet a horse win in place, and then I'll key him in, an exacta with maybe 3 other horses or something. When I come to the Kentucky Derby, I'm betting 2 horses generally straight, and I'm betting them win, place, and show because the show pool, again, also is very inflated on Kentucky Derby Day. In the long shots, you can afford to take attack with 2 horses. But on my exactas and my trifectas, I'll go a little deeper. Right. I'll add an extra horse or 2 in my, partial wheels or boxes, just again because there's so much value in the betting pool that if you, by putting that extra horse in that might get you that 30 or 40 to 1 shot come in, and if he gets there, we've seen some astronomical payoffs on exactas and trifectas and supers in the last decade.
Right, and yeah, you talk about that. You don't want to be too conservative with your Derby wagers. If you're going to play, you want to play because the upside is so huge. A few years ago, I remember the year Giacomo won at 50 to 1. Now, when I handicapped the race, I was really looking for a closer. I loved either Wilco or Giacomo. I actually was strongly considering him. And I have to admit, I was a little biased because I had picked Wilco at seminars here in Vegas and on the radio in the previous Breeders' Cup Juvenile. So when I got down to those two, I kind of felt an obligation to bet Wilco and to pick Wilco. Did I bet Giacomo? No. I mean, why wouldn't you have a saver at 50 to 1, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, expensive lesson learned.
And I can tell you, as a horse bettor, there's no more sickening feeling when you're sitting there and the horses are crossing the wire and you know, that last horse that you threw out that, you know, was the next bet you were going to make, you didn't make, and then you see the payoffs. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah,
these
races are just like the Breeders' Cup. I mean, you do have the best bred horses in America and in a lot of cases in the world coming over for these. So yeah, you definitely have quality animals that are drifting up. This isn't like a claimer race at some cheap track where a horse is 50 to 1 for a reason.
Right.
I mean, these are horses that, you know, you can legitimately say half of them have an overlay in the field.
Absolutely. And what we're going to do on these videos, we're going to have several segments. We're going to break down a lot of the horses, the main contenders in the Kentucky Derby, and then Dave and myself, we're going to talk about some of our long shots. And let's say, you know, this is a race this year, the Kentucky Derby, that's wide open. So we're going to be back where we're going to actually break down this year's Kentucky Derby, and we're going to key in. First horse we're going to look at will be Dialed In. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with our preview, Kentucky Derby 2011 with Dialed In.